Okay, what I'd like to do today is review the weather end of topic assessment that you will have recently sat. First thing you need to do is look at the answer you wrote to each of the questions in this weather assessment, and then compare it to the model answers which you will find in a document attached to this assignment. So for example, here is a model answer written by a student that goes with that particular question. And what I'd like you to do is copy and paste it into the actual assessment so it sits underneath the answer that you have written. Okay, what that will do is it will mean that you have a perfect answer to match to your own. Now, you may have got full marks or not, but it's quite useful to actually see how another student answered it and how they structured their answer and in what ways their answer could possibly be better than yours. So let me talk you through each question. In this question, you were being asked to give reasons for the differences between the weather in Belfast, and we can see the synoptic weather symbol telling us about the weather in Belfast, and the weather in Stockholm. Okay, so these weather symbols, they just describe the weather. They tell us that Belfast is 10 degrees, 8 octaves, rain, southwesterly winds traveling at 25 knots. Stockholm, in contrast, has only got 1 octave of clouds. It's much colder at 2 degrees. The wind's coming from the north west, and there is no rain of anything like that, and only 5 knot winds. So there's a clear difference, but why are there these differences? So you need 5 statements, and you've got to base it on your weather map. So let's have a look at the rain. Why is it raining in Belfast but not in Stockholm? Well, that's to do with the warm front having just passed in Belfast. Okay, so that would be your explanation. It's raining in Belfast but not in Stockholm because of the warm front that's just passed. So why is Belfast warmer? Belfast is warmer because it's in the warm sector of air and it's just had the warm front passing, whereas Stockholm is in the an area of cold air, and therefore is much colder. A second reason you could have said is Stockholm is also much colder because it is further north than Belfast. It's a more northerly latitude and therefore will likely be colder. So why are there strong winds in Belfast and not in Stockholm? Well, stronger winds are indicated by it being in an area of low pressure with the isobars being close together, whereas Stockholm is in an area of high pressure with the isobars further apart, and therefore the wind is gentler. Why is there a lot more cloud, but no cloud in Stockholm? Well, Stockholm's in high pressure, and therefore clouds don't form because the air is sinking, whereas Belfast is an area of low pressure with a warm front nearby, and that's why there's 8 octaves of cloud. And finally, why is the wind coming from the southwest in Belfast? Because it travels in an anti-clockwise direction in low pressure, whereas in Stockholm, why is it coming from the northwest? Because it travels in a clockwise direction following the isobars. So there are your major points that you should have written that explain the differences. Let's have a look at the next question. Now, this question was answered quite poorly by a number of people because they didn't recognize this for what it was. This is an area of high pressure. How do we know that? Because the isobars, the air pressure is at 1036, which is very high pressure, and Liverpool is right at the center of that. Okay, so you're not asked to explain the weather, you're just asked to give the likely weather. So what you need to do here is, what's the likely weather going to be for Glasgow based on Glasgow being in an area of high pressure? So if we have a little look at this, it's January the 21st, so it's going to be very cold because it's winter. Okay, it's going to be clear skies because Glasgow's near the air is at the center of high pressure. You don't have to say because it is a described question. It's going to be very mild winds, and the reason for that obviously is because it's near the center of high pressure and the isobars are quite far apart. There'll be no rain because it's an area of high pressure and the air is sinking. And the winds will be coming from the southwest because they travel clockwise. Now, I've given you all of the because statements, but actually this question just wants you to say southwest winds, very light winds, no cloud, no rain, very cold. That would be a decent answer describing based on this weather map. Okay, that's the 2 synoptic questions. Now we've got a synoptic symbol. You just have to give me 3 correct statements. We have drizzle, that's the comma, 6 degrees, that's the number, 7 octaves, that's the white stripe through the black circle. We have southwesterly wind, that's this piece of the weather symbol here, and it's traveling at 10 knots, that's the large tick. So give me 3 correct statements for 3 marks. Okay, now a whole bunch of answers, different answers given here. So it's really difficult to kind of explain exactly what was a good answer. I've put one in the model answers that you can look at. But you need to know what an anticyclone is. So it's obviously an area of high pressure, and you would need to know what high pressure would bring you in a certain time of year. Okay, in this case, summer. You've got to be careful. You check what time of year they're talking about, because if they said winter, you'd obviously answer it a bit differently. So high pressure brings you clear skies, hot weather, light winds, okay, lack of rain. Now, because it's prolonged, that's for a long period of time. So you just then have to think, okay, that would be lots of sunshine, which would be good for the solar power energy industry, but it would the wind energy would struggle because high pressure means there's going to be very light winds. If you're into sailing, you're going to have a problem because there's not going to be much winds, but the tourist industry will benefit because there'll be lots of people coming on holiday to Scotland. Okay, so 4 points where you fully develop telling me how the weather that comes with an anticyclone affects Scotland, the benefits and problems. And finally, this was quite a simple question. You had to describe these two, tropical, continental. So you have to tell me its origin, which was from Africa. And you have to tell me the weather that comes with that. It's dry because it's continental, and it's very hot because it's tropical. Polar maritime, in contrast, which is the other one you asked about, where's its origin? Well, it comes from the North Atlantic or from Greenland. It brings cold weather, and it brings wet weather. You don't need to explain it at all. You are just asked to describe. Okay, and that concludes it. Check through each of your answers. Copy in the model answers into the places you feel you need them, and be aware of where you went wrong. So next time you get questions like this, you don't make the same mistakes.